I put in the work, I never complain. If I were to fall, I'm taking the blame, while they all be pointing the finger, and that is a shame. Know it's my time, they calling me Dame. The game on the line, I'm running the play. Man of my word, I say what I mean and I do what I say. Looking for me, but they not even part of my league. I've been on fire, 200 degrees. Out of Miami, but repping the sea. Live in the sky, I'm feeling the breeze. Never went Hollywood, did it my way. I felt the love and I've been betrayed. I took the knife in my back and I sharpened it. Now I'll be coming for everyone, black in my lane. I put the game in a choke hold. They'll be moving in slow-mo, shooting my shot from the logo. And I be cooking up so low. I be the only one calling the shots. Nobody else ever taking control. They'll be trying to put me in a box. I can't relate to no internet trolls. They can't do it like me. Too locked in, I've been in my zone. If you don't ride with me, then I'ma make it on my own. Waiting for my demise. Been too long, I'm never gonna fold. Violence all I see. Feel like my mind in a war zone. Yeah, let me take you back to when I was starting out on the come up. I was grinding till the sun up. My neighbors told me to shut up, but they couldn't see the bigger vision. Got no intuition, now my taxes more than that tuition. They see how I'm living and my idols becoming my competition today. I remember I was making under minimum wage. It was part of the story, but now I'm turning the page. And I got bars for days, but can't be locked in the cage. I've been underrated, overlooked like a speed limit. They've been trying to slow me down like I got a speeding ticket. I got demons I keep hidden in the back of my head. I'm not vegan, I keep feeding off the shit that they said. I've been living out my dreams while they stuck in their bed. I've been thinking like a king till the day that I'm dead. I remember when they never would've listened to me, and now I'm everything that they ever been wishing to be. I've been working overtime like every day of the week. I've been studying in school, already got a degree. Trying to make it to a doctor, I've been working on my patience. I'm trying to make a living with multiple occupations. Coming out of the basement on the radio stations. I'm going face to face with all of my contemplations. I feel like God's gift and this is my celebration. I'm trying to lead the way for all the future generations. I don't want them calling on my phone. I've been on my way to the top, no ceiling. They leaving a message at the tone. Trying to get involved, but I really don't need it. I don't want them calling on my line. I know what they wanted and it's not no secret. I'ma tell them that I'm doing fine. Trying to get involved, but I really don't need it. I got old friends slowly turning into enemies. I got people in my life trying to block my energy, and I'm trying to keep my focus surrounded by Hennessy. People drinking every night, trying to fade their memories. I've been working on my mind, staying focused mentally. I've been watering my grass, trying to grow my money tree. Not reacting to the lies, I don't know the chemistry, but I know that everything will happen how it's meant to be. From a small town, trying to make it out to better living. No reminiscing on memories and shit I was missing. No politician, but they listen to the shit that I say. On my way to better days, I never seen a delay. I've been highly debated, I'm never jaded to the life. Not degraded by haters who busy wasting all their time. I've been murdering beats and now they be calling it a crime. Working while the sun down, waiting for my time to shine. Now they say I'm rapping about the same thing every time, but I'm always seeing people with their focus out of line. I've been sending the message until they get it, trying to let them know time is too expensive, I can't never let it go. I don't want them calling on my phone. I've been on my way to the top, no ceiling. They leaving a message at the tone. Trying to get involved, but I really don't need it. I don't want them calling on my line. I know what they wanted and it's not no secret. I'ma tell them that I'm doing fine. Trying to get involved, but I really don't need it. Everything bad to the times I miss. Roll around town hanging out of the whip. Nowadays life just feel like a mess. Sometimes wish they didn't know I exist. Feeling the pressure like are they impressed, or is all of this shit gonna come to an end? Save it a spin. So many questions I don't know the answer. It all just depends how I'm feeling when the day is starting. Sometimes good but the others darker. Check my phone to see what they talking. They got a lot to say but I beg your pardon.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good everybody. I'm gonna go ahead and just bring Jason on in here. This has been the week, Jason. I don't know what is going on, but they do not want us to stream this week, Jason.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Everybody,
Between
welcome.
technology, oh man.
Yeah. Welcome everybody to Wednesday for the threat brief that was supposed to happen on Tuesday that we unfortunately had to move to a Wednesday, and we still ended up with technical challenges. As you'll notice, Jason
Technical
is on
challenge.
his lovely iPad.
Sorry, everyone. Video camera, angle, everything. But listen, restart, three different browsers, still can't get my laptop to connect for some reason. That's for a later time. I will troubleshoot that after the live stream.
All good. Welcome everybody to Threat Breakdown with BitLift and Cyber Insecurity. I'm your host Neil Bridges here with my co-host Jason Miller, CEO of BitLift Security. This is our bi-monthly. It's bi-monthly, right? Don't you have to? I always mess that one up. It's bi-monthly when
Bi-weekly.
it's bi-weekly. There it is. Thank you.
Bi-weekly.
It's a
Twice a month.
bi-weekly, twice a month threat brief here on Cyber Insecurity. Real quick, before we get into rules, there is a giveaway. Make sure that everybody is in Discord. The Discord link just got posted. We'll have one of the mods posted over on YouTube as well. Jason and the BitLift team, thank you so very much. They're giving away 3 1-month Try Hack Me vouchers. That giveaway is live now in the giveaways channel on Discord. Head over there, opt into the giveaway. We'll announce those winners during Friday's Tea with a Hacker. So Jason, thank you on behalf of the community to you and the BitLift team.
Yeah, absolutely. We love it. Like when we were looking at what would be the most sensible thing and the most that would have the most impact on people. And I believe it's continuing to educate ourselves, yourself, and these systems that are out there are great ways to do it. And the other thing that was exciting about the Try Hack Me is you can use it for 30 days.
Yeah.
So as soon as you apply the coupon, man, you've got 30 days to learn and educate and use the system. So I hope everybody enjoys that. There's 3 of them to choose from. So this way here, people have a real opportunity to win.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. All right, so we're starting a little bit behind. We're starting 10 minutes behind. Jason, you've prepped a really good threat brief for today. I'm going to go ahead and pull you in. It seemed like you had a client that had found some ransomware scripts here recently. Do you want to kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think that this is extremely important to be sharing, and that's why we prepped it today. So what is happening right now in the space is the criminals are using a methodology that we want you to be aware of, and we want you to actually go and implement some of the learning mechanisms that we're going to share with you. But to get into the specifics, I like technicalities, so we're going to get into the technical weeds today. There is a ransomware that is being deployed using what's called XMRig, XMRIG. And XMRig is a combination of executables that were found on our customers' machines, lots of them. And these scripts were ultimately ended up being stopped by the EDR that we had in place. And it's because of very strict policies. But if you're listening to this live stream and you don't have strict policies on your EDR, please take a look after you've watched this live stream at some of the things we're going to share with you.
That's
But
good.
diving,
I was going to say, let's dive into it. Like, how did they get in? How did they get into the systems? What was the point of entry?
so point of entry was a vulnerable web server. Uh, Continues, I know we laugh, but one of the things that we're going to stress in this show is you've got to do good vulnerability management and you've got to patch. Um, so the web server was sort of out there. The IT people knew about it. They didn't pay too much attention to it because they thought that in this day and age, who's going to use a web server as a pivot point in the network? They learned some things that day. So the web server had not been patched.
Mm,
It had known vulnerabilities on it, and the known vulnerabilities were even critical.
mm,
So they had critical labeled CVEs.
mm,
So what happened was is that they had a relatively flat network. So if you don't know what that means, pretty much the LAN could talk across the entire network, and there really wasn't good segmentation
mm,
across VLANs. And so what had happened was is that the attacker used that to disseminate and distribute all of their scripts to a whole bunch of machines very fast using automation.
mm,
So what they did was is they used scheduled tasks to create a persistence inside and on the machines that they had distributed their scripts to. And they placed them, I'm going to get into this in a minute, but they had placed them inside of some pretty easy folder locations. Um, so all that to say, uh, I'm jumping a little bit ahead, but good vulnerability management and patching those CVEs, even if you think it's just a web server, patch it.
Yeah,
You know,
let's kind of dive into that, and again, for the audience here, feel free to ask some questions. There's been some questions that have already jumped into chat that I'm gonna funnel over to you here in a second, Jason. So great opportunity for folks to ask questions, and obviously disclose as much as you're allowed to. But was this a web server that had been on the internet for 20 years and somebody had just neglected it? Was it a web server that maybe they'd stood up in the last 3 to 4 or 5 months and they neglected to patch it? Like give us a sense for how relatively I don't want to say careless, but how much of an oversight really was this for this particular team?
yeah, I mean, the web server had been there for a while, number of
Hmm.
years. And I think that, if you see, if you just know that you've been there for a long time,
Hmm.
and people have this mentality, because we hear it through the words that they say, that, oh, they don't really think highly of a web server and the services, and that's really not what's going to hit me today.
Yeah.
And so you'd skip over it, and they're skipping over it for maybe where they think that the penetration point is going to be. And so this server had been there for a long time, and in my definition of a long time is several years.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't newly stood up, and so that's why it had vulnerabilities in it that needed to be patched and taken care of, and it was overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which is I'm cautioning people, and I'm trying to share with people that even the point of your environment that you don't think is going to get compromised and may or may not be open to the public internet, meaning it may not be open. You might not have ports connected directly to it,
Yeah.
but still, if it has a critical CVE, you better patch that darn thing.
Let's
um,
let's talk about what it was infected with, because somebody in chat did ask you what the name again was of the malware that had got infected, or what the name was that you'd used. You'd said XMRig, but XMRig is just a crypto miner, right? It's more of a tool that's used
yep.
at, post exploitation. What else can you kind of talk about when it comes to XMRig as a crypto miner, or how it gets onto systems, or what it's maybe packaged with in some of the campaigns?
Yeah, so that's great. I'm glad you asked that. So here's what I have prepared: is we have identified some droppers.
Mm,
Dom.exe, DOM.exe was utilized for the cryptocurrency mining. They also dropped a peer-to-peer, what's called a peer two, the number two, profit package, and then some associated files on there. Pool dot underscore mine underscore example dot cmd, as well as rtm underscore ghostwriter underscore example dot cmd, and then as well as solo g underscore min underscore example dot cmd. And so these are command files that were dropped onto the machine, and then they can reference them and execute them as they please. The other part, so if you'd ask, like, where are they dropping these? They are dropping these into the forward slash system 32 forward slash config forward slash system profile forward slash app data forward slash roaming profile. That folder structure is used a lot because it's typically overlooked. It's typically not locked down. And so it's the most common area where we actually see files being dropped into via ransomware and other criminal activity, because it's everybody has it, and it's also not locked down. It's not prevented from being used very well. So there's a slew of files that go. We've seen startup underscore str underscore 20.bat, as well as some VBS scripts. I've got a whole list of items that files that we found.
I was gonna take a minute to remind everybody that you can go to the BitLift site and fill out. We're working on getting this updated, but for now, kind of in the early stage of this program, you can go to the BitLift site. You can fill out, a contact us form, and Jason and the team would be more than happy to share all these indicators with you. Is that still good, Jason?
100%. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. We love to share with the community. We want to make sure that you guys are staying aware, and you guys are staying protected as best as you possibly can be. So, that's why we're here on the show talking about this stuff.
Looks like FizzFunk says, so this is just a Windows machine type of issue that you're seeing?
Yes. This was primarily a Windows type attack vector and ransomware methodologies that we're describing here today.
And it looks like you've also got, a couple, looks like some net new C2 servers that you guys have uncovered as part of this attack as well.
Yeah. So all through this, one of the things that I want to make sure that you guys are taking away from this is that you are limiting VBS scripts, bat scripts that can run, and you're also limiting executables. So what I'd highly recommend is some whitelisting and blacklisting in your environment around known good things that you're allowing to run in your environment, and then you're preventing anything else from running in your environment that you don't know of or that you don't recognize. But when you get into these command and control servers, so we've got a couple of updates here for you. The scripts that we have seen in this scenario were all referencing a CNC server. It was 102.130.112.157 colon, which is now the port 3232/me. And then it downloads a troll.exe. And then as soon as that happened, it's set to execute. Now, the geolocation of that IP was South Africa at the time, and I still believe it's there. So I was wondering myself, like, what's in South Africa, right? Why South Africa? But a little bit of quick looking, you could actually rent servers there pretty cheap and execute activity there with nobody really looking over your shoulder.
So real quick, you mentioned a couple things when it came to whitelisting and blacklisting. I want to take a step back to that whitelisting and blacklisting.
Yeah.
I think would you agree that it's pretty safe to say not every organization can blacklist all .batch files and all .vbs scripts, especially since almost every attachment, every Excel document probably has VBS scripts at this point in time, or are you saying that that's something that you could probably safely blacklist across your entire org?
No, what I'm saying here is you really need to go through the exercise and find the known good files, VBS files, batch files, .bat, .vbs, .cmd, and whitelist the known files that you have. And you could say, wow, that sounds like a tedious task. It very well may be, but it may be the thing that actually saves you from a really horrific day, horrific week, or horrific month. We encourage all of our customers to go through the exercise of whitelisting and blacklisting known and unknown scripts in their environment. It doesn't come without the challenge, though, of when software gets updated and systems get updated, that you have to go through those. But let me tell you what, this is a good exercise to do because it is, I would rather you and rather encourage you to go through the cleaning and the organization of your IT house versus be left with, well, we didn't take time to do that. So now we're ransomed and now we have a problem.
Yeah, and XMRig is like, I just want to double down on like what Jason's saying, right? The ransomware aspect I think is very important, but crypto mining as a whole, one of the things that Jason, I don't know if you've seen this or not as well, but cloud infrastructures, like I know we were talking about a web server and we're talking about ransomware servers inside of an organization, but XMRig as a crypto miner and a crypto miner strategy as a whole, and I think last week you had talked about exposing some cloud credentials and utilizing some of that to gain access to other cloud assets. Crypto miners are a great way for attackers to gain access to cloud infrastructure, deploy their crypto miner into your AWS or your Azure infrastructure, and use that infrastructure to basically run up your cloud bills incessantly, and they do nothing but mine cryptocurrency on there. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that.
We've seen it time and time again. If you're not careful around the crypto miners and your web browsing, and them installing, you might think, well, why is this so important? Well, if you don't pay attention and you're just like, oh, it's a crypto miner, or somebody installs a crypto miner, these crypto miners, one of the important pieces that I wanted to showcase is this XM rig is an open source software, and it's originally designed just to do crypto mining. But the problem is that cyber criminals have exploited XMRig to also carry out their functions while it's doing crypto mining. So behind the scenes, you may not even realize or know it, but the cyber criminal is executing their strategy and their plan behind the scenes, all while this thing is crypto mining. So you might just think about that, like, well, crypto mining is not really that important to me, or it's just okay. But the reality is XM Rig is open source and can be used by cyber criminals to do other activities.
Absolutely, I think it's a great point. That's an example where XM Rig isn't the bad thing, but XM Rig gives cyber criminals an opportunity to facilitate their activity, through post exploitation. You had talked about EDR. Thank you very much for keeping it very high level, not mentioning a specific EDR. We do very well not to do that. Cybertooth, I know Cybertooth, he works in a SOC. He does a lot of day-to-day SOC stuff. So this question is very specific for him. So this is going to be really relevant. This is one of the reasons why I'm glad you're here, Jason, to help with, our folks who are on the front lines dealing with this daily. But he wants to know, can you be more specific or share a resource about what strict policies you're referring to? Every EDR has their own name for everything. So can you talk about those strict policies that you think are critically important when dealing with this type of threat?
Yeah, I mean, he's right. He or she is right there. The thing is that inside of like CrowdStrike, Sentinel-1, Carbon Black, Cylance, you name the EDR that you may have. So when we go in and we help customers really tighten up their policies, one thing is we enable script control. And we would highly recommend you enable script control. And then furthermore, you define the scripts that are allowed to run in your environment. And you even allow and approve the hashes of those files that you allow to run. And then everything else is set to deny. And that is the way. It could be a challenging way. It could be a painful way if you think about it in that regard. But if you also think about it in like, I know the scripts that I have approved, if you're working in the SOC, and without a shadow of a doubt, you've got the script name, the extension, the hash, and those are known good files, then you can rest easily at night knowing that everything else is going to be denied. And that's the way that we roll. If people roll in any other direction, then you just casually advise them. Then we are taking on risk that we may or may not be okay with, because if we allow scripts to run in our environment and we have not reviewed them and approved them, This is one of the biggest ways cyber criminals are exploiting their methodologies these days.
So I appreciate what you're saying. Let me have just one small moment where I want to double down on exactly what Jason's saying and say that it is incredibly hard to do what it is that you're just describing, Jason. Taking a deny any approach and going through and whitelisting all of the things that you're allowing in your environment, especially for some of these large environments, can be relatively taxing and relatively an arduous effort. So let's it is critical. This is definitely a best practice. This is definitely something that you should be doing. I'll be the pragmatic one with Jason and say that, like, I love Jason's approach and I do think that it is the right answer of the approach, but get help. This is a hard thing to do. This is a hard thing to do.
And I would highly recommend, like we've talked about, not to throw out another kind of thing here, but like zero trust, right? And so, part of the whole methodology is trust, but verify. Well, if you're not verifying your files, you're not verifying your scripts, you're not verifying the executables in the environment before you're allowing them to run, you're really not running a zero trust approach. And so I would take a week, take 2 weeks, plan it out, strategize about it, and do it, because it really could save you a nightmare on the other end.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Was that the last thing that you wanted to cover on XM rig before we moved on to your next segment?
Yeah. Hang on one second. Let me just give you a couple of points.
Go for it.
XM rig. A couple of notes I wrote down here is a commonly crypto miner. Checkpoint actually noted it in 2023 as a security report. XM rig was identified as the 10th most common malware worldwide, right? And then it accounted for 43% of the crypto mining attacks.
Wow. So,
we're not talking about something small here. Yeah. We're actually talking about something that accounted for 43% of the attacks. The known CVEs, CVE 2021, 26084, it was actually one of the vulnerabilities used by the attackers to execute XM rig on both Windows and Linux machines. So there are some Linux machines that can be exploited to this, but it was primarily Windows attacks that we were seeing in our SOC.
Yeah.
Larger campaigns with XM rig was carried out. They install the miner and then they use it. For example, one of the groups was Black Squid Malware Family, was noted for using several web servers exploiting to spread XM rig. So that's also a really good thing to note. And then we even seen some Log4j exploitation around this. So
still seeing some Log4j exploitation.
Yep. So again, comes back to patching. There's a CVE on this. It's been exploited. Distributing XM rig, showcasing its highly useful and impact in cyber campaigns. So, why all of this, right? I mean, I want to share with you, Black Squid is a malware known for its sophisticated approach, really infecting the web servers, network drives, removable drives, and aiming to get the crypto miner in place.
Let's define sophistication, because I think me and the community as a whole, we get a little cynical when we talk about sophisticated malware. Can you talk about that sophistication level? Maybe it's target methods, how it does evasion, things like that.
I mean, it does a really good job at evasion. The useful of small scripts that go unnoticed on machines is really good. The network drives are removable drives. They even use some brute force attacks. If you're not looking for brute force attacks in your environment, then you may miss this. If you're not looking for, brute force on usernames and passwords, you would miss it. But the evasion techniques, let me explain. I wrote this down. There was some anti-virtualization and anti-debugging and anti-sandboxing methods used to evade detection and analysis. When you look at this, it the software that we're talking about here, this malware, it checks for signs of the analysis of the environment that it has hidden. So it looks around. It wants to understand, what am I in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it looks for specific usernames, disk drives, the models, dynamic link libraries, to avoid running in a sandbox or a virtual machine. So when we talk about sophistication, it has built-in evasion techniques. So it may choose never to even detonate and go on to its next phases because of its checks. So that's the level of sophistication that we're running into here.
And a lot of that sophistication is so that it can't be reverse engineered. You can't determine its C2 servers or the files that it drops on a local host. A lot of that evasion is really geared towards what? Hiding itself from researchers like yourself?
Hiding it from research that we do or that other security researchers do. You're 100% spot on. It may never reach out to its command and control server and download the next payload because it has determined, I'm in an environment I don't want to be in, right? So then it has small risk, it has small exposure, and it will never do its next steps. So payloads won't be downloaded and that type of thing. But if you do get into this, there is mitigation practices around it. And disabling, I don't know if you guys are doing this out there, but disabling JavaScript in your browsers where possible to prevent drive-by downloads is one of the major things.
Also architecturally challenging in a lot of large enterprises.
Yes, but if you want to prevent your users from those drive-by downloads and clicking on things that they shouldn't be clicking on while they're browsing the web, it's a recommendation.
Yeah.
Take it for what it's worth.
Yeah.
I hope it helps you if you're able to implement it. So that's really what I wanted to touch on there.
That's a lot.
What I wanted to
That's a
know
lot
on the show today. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so thank you for working through that with me.
No. That's hugely beneficial. And so I want to wrap a little bit of bubble around, or a little bit of context around that, right? So one of the reasons, Jason, that I love having you here is that you and your team are on the front lines seeing this every day. And I want to make sure that the audience is aware of this. Like, we may be talking about CVEs from 2021. We may be talking about an open source crypto mining software called XMRig, which has been around in the open source community for years. We may be talking about Log4j, which is a vulnerability from 2021. Jason and the team, you guys are seeing this today with enterprise clients.
Yes. Yeah. And what's noted, and you're right, you're saying, well, why are we referencing something that happened, potentially a couple of years ago, right? And there were CVEs in 2021, 2023. The reality is that its usage, software changes, right? And that they're still using it today. And so we can't forget about the past and the history. And if those CVEs are still existing in your unpatched environments, then you're still susceptible to these types of attacks.
It's very spot on. Vulnerability management. Everybody hates it. I hate it. I know you hate it, but it is still the thing to be talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd really love to move on.
Yeah.
I want to get to this next point.
Yeah.
So last, this is segment 4. If you're looking at the notes, Neil, I want to jump into.
Yeah, we should definitely talk about this one. I wrote about this one about a year ago. I wrote about the precursor to this one. We should definitely talk about this one, especially with all the talk about AI.
Yeah. So, last show we talked about AI and automation, and I sort of wanted to double click down into that.
Yeah.
Everybody's sort of, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but this might be new to you, or this might be old news, but Ghost GPT, right? And so I'd love to chat with you about this, Neil. I wanted to bring this up in today's show.
Yeah.
It's Ghost GPT, from everything that I've read and educated myself and the team on, and we've talked about this internally, is that it's essentially like a jailbroken GPT, right? It is a unethical. It doesn't have ethics built into its LLM, And what we have seen is criminals are using this for its automation, for its script
Mm.
building, and it's being delivered. Ghost GPT is being delivered via Telegram,
Mm.
which is great for cybersecurity criminals, right? Um, it's an access point for them to get this software right, and then to follow on. I want to say these a couple things, and then I want you to hop in on this, Neil. But there's also Worm GPT,
Mm-hmm.
Fraud
Mm-hmm.
GPT, and other GPTs out there that are unethical. It doesn't have uh, ethics built into the LLM, and so if you ask it, hey, build me some malware that does X, Y, and Z,
Mm-hmm.
it will build it for you. It will build you the code.
Yeah, I did a short on this. I did a 60-second cyber on this. I think a year-ish or so ago. Some Jens or somebody can keep me honest on this. I think it was actually on Worm GPT, which was one of the first iterations of that. Which was right
Yeah.
after Chat GPT had made its kind of interest in the marketplace, where they were allowing you basically to take all the gloves off and ask Worm GPT to write you malware, and that had taken off in the underground marketplaces as well. So I agree with you. I think we have and will continue to see the perpetuance of these GPTs. I'd not heard of Ghost GPT before. That's a new one to me. Hopefully that's a new one to the
Yep.
audience as well. Do you have any specifics of what you guys have found or what you guys have seen or what you guys have researched about Ghost GPT? Who's it being targeted towards? What's its capability? What does its architecture look like? Anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're not going and downloading it and interacting with it. I really want to try and keep our teams on the ethical white hat side of things.
Mm-hmm.
But it's we have seen it and seeing it talked about being used. A couple of things that we have seen it being used was not only was it being used to write the phishing emails,
Mm.
it was also being used to write the malware and write malicious code against known vulnerabilities. And it helps facilitate the malicious activities. And what we seen is like last week, well, sorry, not last week, but last show, we described automation
Mm-hmm.
that essentially took over environment, spread malware all over the environment, and was ready to take it over. Um, we are almost we're pretty for sure, like 99%, that Ghost GPT was used in that. And so that's why I wanted to talk
Wow.
about it today is because the automation and malicious scripts that we seen is reaching out to Active Directory, reaching out to other services in the environment, and it was well laid out.
Mm.
Um, and so we did some analysis on the files that we found
Mm-hmm.
on the customer's environment, and that really has helped us understand, like, okay, this was pretty sophisticated from a stance that it was well thought out. They knew what they wanted to do. It needed to be script so that you could move quickly in the environment within seconds. And then we've seen data scraped and moved off the network so that then they could do next steps with it.
Let me ask you.
So
Let me ask something really quick on that because I love that you brought that up. So again, just to frame this for folks who are listening, right? Jason and his team of defenders, they're responding to an attack. If he's tuned in the last show, we talked about some of the post exploitation that he's referencing here. And as you're looking at these files, Jason, what you're saying is that you're seeing evidence in the way that these scripts are written and the way that these scripts execute on target that make you feel like these scripts aren't just like, hey, somebody went to GitHub and pulled this out of their butt or wrote this, with like a textbook knowledge. Like these scripts give you the feel and the sense that there was either a lot of thought or a lot of, coding knowledge and expertise put behind these for such an unsophisticated or low level type of attack. Am I kind of summarizing that correctly?
you're summarizing that perfectly well.
Mm.
It with the speed and the accuracy, it gives us the feeling of like, wow, somebody is using AI
Mm-hmm.
to their advantage to execute this really well.
If you don't
Um,
mind sharing, How much harder does that make your team's job in responding to these types of attacks on network?
I think from a security analyst perspective, it makes it that much more. Um, it is challenging because you have to be ready to take on an automated attack,
Mm,
right? So our team, if you're out there and you're a security analyst, security engineer, you essentially have to be ready to take on an automated attack.
mm,
And oftentimes, not all the time, will the EDR uh, uh, block these, right? Um, you're only installing EDR on Windows, Mac, Linux machines. Um, you better, you have to be able to take on these types of attacks from places that you might not have EDR installed.
mm.
And that's why we emphasize that you need a good log management practice, because you need to read and analyze your logs in as quick as near real time as possible. So
As you prepped for this show today, and I know that you brought this up because it was something we had talked about. We'd levied a little bit extra last time we talked about automation and attacks, but now just in the last week, as we've talked about DeepSeek, how do you feel DeepSeek, or what is some of the things that your team is looking to prepare themselves for moving forward from a threat defense perspective, as you look at Ghost GPT or Worm GPT or Fraud GPT, with the advent of something like DeepSeek? Like, where do you think the next threat goes with something like DeepSeek out there?
unequivocally, it's going to be a challenge for the space. Go look at the privacy policy of DeepSeek. Read it, put it into a Grok or Chat GPT and have it summarize it for you.
Have the
But let me
LLMs
tell
fight
you,
each other on it?
yeah, but the privacy policy of DeepSeek is not written for your and I's protection,
Mm,
right? It's written for the China uh, made software's protection. I'm concerned because now all of a sudden you have an AI LLM that came out literally, over the weekend.
mm-hmm,
It it is not ethical. I think that its efficacy is in question at the moment.
mm-hmm,
Time will tell where it falls, if it falls into the black hat or the white hat camp.
mm-hmm.
But these are what we are challenged with, all of us as cybersecurity professionals, is we now have to contend with AI is growing at such a rapid rate that malware or scripts, if I say, hey, I want to write a script that will be evaded by all of the current detection methodologies from like CrowdStrike, SentinelOne, you name it. These AI engines, you can train it, and then it will help you write scripts to evade those detection methodologies. And so you literally have to put on this mindset that we have to uncover literally everything and anything in near real time with the tools that we have at our fingertips. And so I would highly recommend that you're using an ethical AI to help you as well write detection methodologies and ask it, uh, if scripts are running in my environment and they are trying to be evaded, what are some ways that I can help my systems?
Mm-hmm.
I know that's sort of broad, but just saying, we need to use AI just as much as the criminals are using AI against us.
So how are so with I don't want you to give away any of your defensive strategies that are proprietary for BitLift, but in the best way possible, can you give people one that Jason and you talked about this chat is that we want you guys to be able to walk away from this with some action items that you can do today. Jason, if you had to give some folks that they could walk away with maybe 1, 2, or 3 action items that they can go to make AI more useful in their security defensive posture, what do you think those would be?
So I will share some things that we would recommend, to our paying customers that I would be happy to share here. Is you take the MITRE ATT&CK framework and you take some malware, upload some malware, have it reference MITRE ATT&CK framework, um, maybe choose one or two or three of the MITRE ATT&CK techniques, and ask it, how would you have better prevented this detection in my environment, knowing that this was the malware that got through, or that this was the successful scripts that got through, and or this was the phishing campaign that was used against my employee. How could I write something in my systems? Name your systems,
Hmm.
name the things that you have in play today, and help it understand the context of your walls today that you're living in, and then have it actually suggest some recommendations for you.
And you feel you can do that without disclosing anything sensitive about your company? That's a lead-in question. I think the answer to that's going to be yes. But you feel confident that you
Yeah.
can do that without disclosing any sensitive information?
Yeah, you can tell it, hey, I'm using this EDR, this version, and this is your version number that you're at.
Hmm.
This was the malware that was seen in my system,
Hmm.
or maybe this is the phishing email that we received. You can remove, the exact email address,
Hmm.
but you can remove the data that is sensitive to your company and upload data that is uh, non-sensitive,
Hmm.
and still have it give you output and outcomes that will help you get pointed in the right direction pretty quickly.
Absolutely.
Um, so, especially like Grok, used on X, and then Chat GPT, um, they are helpful tools.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
I I
Go
I
ahead.
I think what I'd say to that is like, and we've talked about this on stream before, chat. This is the time to turn around and be leveraging AI to make your analysis and your decisions faster, right?
Yeah.
Jason, for the last 2 weeks, has talked about, Jason, you've done really great in terms of briefing what it is that you're seeing. And it sounds very, very much like, you know, the attackers are figuring out that their use of technology centers around speed and executing on the target.
Mhm.
And it sounds like we need to get faster at our speed of executing in responding to that on target.
100%. Their whole thing is that if they can be inside of your environment for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes
Hmm.
unnoticed, and all of their automation ran in seconds,
Yeah.
and then they can now do data discovery, they can even do data exfiltration, and they can do what they want to do all with automation scripts,
Hmm.
and they're ready.
Hmm.
It's not like they're building them on the fly. They have built them before they even have access to your environment.
Yeah. Jason, we're coming up to the top of the hour. And Chad, you may have heard Jason talk about like a threat brief that his team put together that's got different segments on there. That is something that his team does share with me ahead of the show. We are looking at ways to make that available to everybody. So that we're not being cagey here. We do have a threat brief that we are kind of like operating off of, and so we're looking to
Yeah.
make that public. You've got a couple more things on your threat brief here, Jason, that we won't have time to get to all of them, but do you want to pick a couple of those and hit as well that you think are most important for people to walk away from?
Yeah, I wanted to touch on real quick insecure VPN tunneling
Yeah,
protocols.
yeah.
I'm going to touch on this quick, so this is going to be a little bit rapid fire. We are actively monitoring for exploited vulnerabilities uncovered in multiple tunneling protocols. Right now, this is impacting about 4.2 million hosts globally, so a
Wow.
lot.
Yeah.
The affected technologies include VPN servers, some ISP home routers, core internet routers, mobile network gateways, and CDN nodes. So it's affecting a lot. These top affected countries are
Real,
China, France,
real,
Japan, US, and Brazil.
real quick. Can you dive a little deeper, just really quick, and talk about what you mean by multiple tunneling protocols? Like when somebody's talking about exploiting vulnerabilities across multiple tunneling protocols, what
Yep.
exactly does that mean?
So if you think about it, you have SHA-1, SHA-2, and you have where the actual VPN tunnel is making a multiple layered connection to secure your connection. We are seeing these protocols, IP6, GRE6, and 4in6 have the actual, there's a lack of authentication and the encryption without proper security in them. So again, this is to know that you need to know that your VPN tunnels, you have to make sure that you are updating your systems and software to the latest. Don't say, oh, well, we're using VPN, it's secure. You have to know that the VPN software that is inside of your systems, firewall to the endpoint agent, are as up to date as possible. So this is being talked about on multiple layers, multiple organizations out in the space. But I wanted to bring it up that people should not rely on that we have VPNs who are more secure, but you actually need to make sure that your VPN is as up to date as it possibly can be.
So even the technologies that the VPN are running on could have vulnerabilities underlying them that could compromise, the perceived security of the traffic that the VPN should be transmitting.
Yeah, 100%. That's why I wanted to bring this up.
Yeah.
This is because the actual tunnel itself, the lack of authentication and encryption without proper security measures inside of IPsec is what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And so that is the root cause of the VPN tunnel being vulnerable. And so if you're saying, boy, I haven't checked our VPN software lately, I don't know if it's as up to date as it should be, it actually could have known CVEs. I would recommend today, tomorrow, this week, that you're actually logging in and looking to your VPN software and seeing if it's up to date. And if it's not, I would highly recommend that you update it.
I think that's amazing. I think there's a lot of cynicism around VPNs, but VPNs are still a key piece of a lot of infrastructures and a lot of technology pieces. A lot of consumers use them. A lot of enterprises still have VPN gateways. And so I can see why you brought that one up. I think that one is indeed core. Jason, I think that's going to do it for us for this week's threat brief. Thank you. I don't know why I'm not thanking you I'm not thanking you as a guest. I forget you're a co-host now. You're a co-host with me. This is always amazing to have you. Yes, it was quick. Don't forget, everybody, we do have a stream tonight. We've changed the time of the stream night. Jason, if you get a chance, have your team tune in as well. We're going to have Chris Pogue. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. Digital forensics and incident response expert. I don't know if you've got any accolades or stories or praises that you can kind of give your experience with Chris. But I'm excited to have Chris on. He's a brilliant resource. We're going to be talking specifically about differ stuff tonight at 7 Eastern Standard Time.
I won't miss it. I won't miss it. They're always awesome.
Yeah. And also, don't forget, the giveaways are live in Discord. Jason, thanks to you and Hannah. Hannah, you work Hannah to death over there. Send her my love.
I'll make sure to give her a huge raise.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Chad. And we'll see you tonight. And Jason, I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah, see you in 2 weeks. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good one.